Politics, your view, elections, rule of law, economic issues, foreign events on the Talking Point. Talking Point, weekdays on this channel.
When you hear the term insecurity, what comes to mind? I bet you think the first thing that comes to your mind is Boko Haram somewhere in the northeast, or banditry spiraling into the northwest, or perhaps kidnappers. There are other forms of insecurity even as we draw close to the elections. One insecurity which we may be majoring on today is the fact that should a policy not go down well with the people, they may resort to self-help, and that in itself can cause insecurity. What policy am I talking about? News is filtered in today that the CBN has officially declared that the old Naira note is no longer a legal tender. And what happens with the people who still have that particular note in their possession? And again, where are the new Naira notes? These are fundamental questions we must ask, because when we talk about the issue of insecurity, it is not limited only to what you understand as insecurity. Ours is to make sense of the conversation so that you, the viewer, can be better informed, especially in your election choice. I am Ikechukwu Juwe, welcoming you to this conversation today. My guest is already fired up to have this conversation. He is, of course, I'm going to be a bit, I might ask him to avoid the other part of the office he occupies, but he is the state director of CRAN. I bet he'll tell us that acronym himself because I'm getting used to that. I'm used to the former office. Joining me this afternoon is Otuekon Franklin Ison. Good afternoon to you, sir, and welcome.
Good afternoon, Ike. Good to be here. I am happy to come up today, this afternoon. I was just standing at the bank talking about the Naira note. At the end of the day, I could not get cash. All I could get was 2,000 Naira. And
do you have it in your pocket?
Of course, and I have the 2,000 Naira in my pocket. And then I had to move to see the note in my pocket.
You might want to show it to the camera.
That is it. After I spent like 4 hours today in the bank, all I could get was 2,000. I was told that the banks, we are paying 3,000, but the bank had to now ration to give 2,000 so as to enable the money went around. The people who were queuing since morning, someone had gone very early to get number because you have to get a number at the gate to be able to queue. Once the number is called, you are now asked to go in. And then I had to move to one of the ATM machine, and where I was able to withdraw the old currency.
So you have the old currency with you?
You can now see.
At the ATM?
At the ATM today.
And the CBN says
CBN
this is no longer legal
tender. But the banks today, I got this from the ATM. I had to do it because I
might want to show that properly to the camera.
I was coming to this program. I had to come with this so that we can discuss practically how this policy functions and what we are targeting and where we are going to land at the end of the day.
Going to lead us to.
You are saying this is the legal tender. The banks can only, pay me 2,000. I haven't spent 4 hours. The ATM is still dispensing the old currency, which you have called illegal tender. What do I do with this? I have to bring this for us to put it up practically for the viewers to see. Let's begin to interrogate the CBN policy and vis-a-vis the issue of insecurity, where we are heading to. And when the Supreme Court has made a pronouncement, this is the apex court of the land. This is the court that is next to God. When the Supreme Court makes a pronouncement, you can only appeal to God, except the Supreme Court revises itself. Here we are, the Supreme Court of Nigeria has made a pronouncement asking that status quo ante bellum be maintained, that these two currencies should be, legal tender
side by side
until tomorrow, Wednesday, when the matter, will be heard. And here is the federal government agency, an employee of the federal government, saying that the order of the Supreme Court of Nigeria is null and void and should not be obeyed. Today, the Supreme Court, will be watching. The court justices will be watching. This is a ridicule to judiciary. This is a ridicule to democracy. Where is the rule of law? Where is the fundamental principle of power separation? When you have the federal government disobeying, the executive arm of government disobeying the judiciary, they are simply telling us that we are operating either dictatorship or a system where the people are being pushed to revolt. And when this happens, I bet you the much effort that INEC has put up to prepare for elections, the effort we have put up as civil society groups to pacify Nigerians, to pacify Nigerians and say, don't go and protest, the effort we have put on grounds to ensure that peace, security and stability is maintained will be reduced to shambles. Because by the time the citizens begin to revolt, by the time the Nigerian masses begin to revolt, resulting to self-help, which you earlier mentioned, they will be left with no option than to begin to take the laws into their hands, which is wrong, which is why I am using this medium to appeal to the Supreme Court justices, to appeal to the President of Nigeria, President Buhari, to appeal to the Chief Law Officer, Abubakar Malami, to appeal to the CBN governor. He himself, when he was being, chased by the DSS and other security agencies,
he ran to the court.
He ran and was going to court to obtain court orders. Even when he was not present in the court still issued orders that he shouldn't be arrested. Be arrested, and he wasn't arrested. The order was obeyed. Today, the CBN governor should be called to order because he is simply pushing Nigeria to derail our democracy. And when this happens, I wonder where this country is going to land us to. My appeal again is because we fought for democracy, and I know what we went through in the hands of the military. They are pushing everybody into undue hardship, and this is completely unacceptable to any person in this country. Yet dollars is now becoming the most legal tender in Nigeria. Go to Abuja. A friend of mine told me that if there's some markets, some shops accept dollar because Naira is scarce. And this is a country that dollar is supposed to be illegal tender, but dollar is now legal tender because we don't have Naira available. What are we saying? So the CBN governor should be called to order. The Council of States had a meeting and advised the CBN governor and the president that if you have to print more of the new Naira note, if you don't have the means or you don't have it enough, allow the due of the old currency and the new currency
to run
side by side concurrently until a time will come when you will phase out the old currency and allow the new one to take place. Even in UK, when the currency is about being changed because of the late of the Queen, the UK government had agreed or made pronouncement that the face of the king had been included in the new currency, and that both currency will run concurrently until such a time that the old currency will be completely out of circulation. So you don't make a law and you say this law must stand, except you want to push this country to anarchy, which is what I think the CBN governor is trying to do.
Now, having listened to you speak about it, one will now ask, if the ATMs dispensed to you an old note or old notes of, I think, about 5,000, I suppose?
Yes.
5, that's about 5,000 Naira.
Yes.
You got from the old notes.
That's it, 5,000.
Now, you are just one of the over 200 million Nigerians who have probably been issued old notes. And the CBN has come out to say that this old notes that the bank ATMs issued you is no longer legal tender. So what happens from there? What are you going to do with the money?
You see, I am going to use this money as a case study. This morning, while coming to the studio, I spoke with a couple of friends. Because you have people who don't even have this old note. We don't even have the new note.
It's scarce. Both of them are scarce.
They don't even have the old note. They don't even have the new note. So I'm going to make sure that this matter, is used as a test case. We're going to make a statement. And I want to pray, like I said much earlier, that the CBN is not an agent of crisis provocateur, because the way he's going about it, he's simply pushing Nigerians to the wall. I came here to defend the policy. I have been here defending the policy. I said I welcome the redesigned currency. I welcome every policy of the central bank because they are to evolve monetary policy. But when the policy is made and the Supreme Court of the land has made a pronouncement, it behoves on the central bank government or governor to understand that this is the highest court of the land, except he is pushing Nigerians to the wall. Even if he has any objection to the court judgment, you must obey it first and then make your appeal. The chief law officer, Abubakar Malami, came up to say that the federal government will obey the judgment. This is the government that employs the CBN governor. And if they have said that they will obey the judgment and make motions to set it aside, it is not supposed to be the central bank governor coming out to object, to refuse to accept the legal tender. And let me even add this. There is nowhere in the CBN Act that says the moment you bring out a currency, the old one becomes invalid.
Yes.
I want to be
Yes.
I want to be guided. I have not seen anywhere where the Nigerian constitution says the Nigerian CBN Act, where it's stipulated that when once a new currency is out, the old one automatically becomes invalid. Nowhere. So if you are saying you want to bring you want to encourage cashless policy and cashless economy, fine and good.
These things are gradual.
Then you don't have to
They are
push
gradual.
it into the throat of Nigerians who are dying. My aged mom is in the village. I'm supposed to send money to her since first of this month, because I send money to her every beginning of the month. I also buy drugs for her because she's on medication. For the past, today is what? For the past 14 days.
Today's 14.
2 weeks now. She hasn't gotten her medications. She hasn't also been able to receive money to be able to take care of herself. And there are people who have the same issues. You have pensioners, you have people who are retired, we have the elder statesmen. How would they survive? And here you are in the urban cities. You don't even have the cash. How much less the rural areas?
Hinterlands.
So there is need for the central bank governor to beat a rethink and understands that the policy he is making, though, is good, but the timing is bad. You don't make a law because you are targeting at election. I support the central bank governor policy, but the policy is becoming too harsh. Is pushing Nigerians to the wall, and more so that the Supreme Court of Nigeria has made a pronouncement that the currency that he has made, illegal tender by his pronouncement should not be, shouldn't hold. That what is invoked is that the old currency and the new currency that he has redesigned should operate hand in hand.
Okay.
Today, I wonder where we are heading to. Imagine getting this from ATM after a long queue.
The same bank.
Today.
The same
the
bank.
bank that gave me 2,000 in through ATM, I would draw this after spending like 4 hours of my man hour. I did this because I was coming to the studio to bring it for our listeners, our viewers to see how the policy is working.
Okay. Now, we are 11 days before the elections. In my intro, I did talk about forms of insecurity, and I was trying to make the viewer understand that what they usually are familiar with is like Boko Haram in the northeast, banditry spiraling into the northwest, and then kidnapping. These are forms of insecurity. Let's discuss how this policy may, in a way, lead to insecurity as we count down to the polls, to the best of your knowledge.
You see, like I said, I am not averse to, every policy that will strengthen our democratic, experience and practices. I'm not also averse to every good policy. Ab initio, I have, made a statement through my group. We have declared support for the policy. We have even said that the CBN governor should not be arrested when he was declared wanted by the DSS, alleged to have been involved in terrorism sports and all the rest. We supported him, we stood by him, we made our stand clear that it was being witch hunted by those who don't like the policy. Now, having said this, I had thought that when the policy is implemented, the handlers of the policy will be able to make it practicable. I had thought that the policy will function. I had thought that the policy is going to encourage and strengthen our democratic, system. The other day, you saw the INEC chairman going to have a meeting with the central bank governor because of the fear that the scarcity of the currency may not lead to insecurity and could hamper the success of the pool.
Yes.
That is the truth about it. Nigerians are already starving. You are starving Nigerians who are going to election. These people are Nigeria. We are preparing for election in the next 2 weeks. You are starving us. So who will be alive to that date of election? I watched a video where a lady slummed in the bank, perhaps a pensioner who was struggling to get, her money in the bank, and she couldn't access it out of this. She slumped in the bank. I don't know what happened, whether she later, recovered. I watched a video where a man stripped himself naked in the bank while trying to get, his money. I watched a video where two men were fighting using, a rod to hit themselves in the banking hall.
There was also another video of a man who stayed on the counter.
Good.
Took his clothes off and
climbed the counter. I watched a video where a banker was on her way home. Some guys were laid her, and then they had to led her, took her bags, removed her tires and the rest. Bankers, I watched a video where bankers were scaling through the fence because of a fear of attack.
Because of the anger.
So this is a clear signal that the policy implementers are not doing it well. They're not doing well. Now, if this is what you have seen, I had thought that the CBN governor would have sat back, took these videos, took all these are feedback, analyze them, go back to the drawing board, and hinge on the central bank, hinge on the Supreme Court order.
Judgment. Also
hinge on the Council of State advice and other women again who have come out to appeal to the central bank governor to say, don't continue with this policy, even though you want to bring, of course, I must admit that Naira to the dollar had dropped up to 400 or something. Now, Naira the dollar had dropped. That is a good one. But the policy itself is biting harder on Nigerians who are heading to elections. And so you could see people who are already angry, and somebody who is hungry is angered. And so when you starve people and you're telling us that election is coming, we should go out and vote, I bet you every little opportunity that the youth have to assemble, there will be riot. Because Nigerians are already aggrieved. You see, the NSAS protest, why it almost consumed the country, was because it didn't have a face. It didn't have a convener. Now, the central bank governor is the convener of what will likely be the protest. Of what
you sound as though this may lead to,
because it almost happened in Akwa Ibom. We have some youth who went to central bank, here in Uyo, to demand that we have the currency. They were appeased. You've seen protests in Warri, you've seen in Edo, you've seen in Lagos, and the rest. And all these protests is aimed at the banks. The bankers have become endangered species, and the central bank governor is the convener of this anger, of this protest that may likely occur because of the good policy that you have brought, but badly and poorly implemented. So what one thought should have done would have been to hearken to voices of reasoning, and to worsen matter in this particular policy. When you have now disobeyed lawful court order, what else do you want the Nigerian citizens to do?
But of course, you'd recall that when the court gave that order, the legal team of the CBN did come out to say that yes, there is a court order, but they are not exactly bound. Because, of course, there are arguments that it's not within the purview of the Supreme Court to be issuing this kind of orders. You see anything contrary to that?
You see, when a court assumes jurisdiction on any matter and makes a pronouncement, good or bad, you are bound to obey that court order. In the first instance, you can only appeal for the court, appeal to a higher court. But in this instance, you have the highest court of the land making a pronouncement, and you that is bound to obey, you are saying that the Supreme Court order is null and void, is rubbish. You will not obey it. You would have obeyed the court order and appear make your motions before the court and say, Court, Supreme Court, you don't have the jurisdiction, or I wasn't joined in this matter. Please vacate that order. And then the court will now listen to you and revise itself if need be. But where the court, which is presumably the hope of the common man, has made a profound pronouncement, because the court is made for two things: one, for justice, and for public policy. In this case, the court has made a pronouncement that has touched on public policy because of the yearnings of Nigerians. Mind you, the court did not make a judgment. It only gave temporary order, which is bound to expire tomorrow.
But does the court have jurisdiction on matters of this nature? Because that was one of the arguments of the legal team from the CBN.
I think the argument of the CBN is simply that the CBN was not joined. Now, when when there is a dispute between the state government and federal government, the first port of instance is the Supreme Court. For what? To interpret
legal
to
interpretation.
interpret that dispute.
Yes.
And that is what the 3 governors
They've now become 5, if not 6.
Because really all governors in the states, they are going to be part of it. Because the Nigerian Governors Forum, they are also affected. Imagine that you have violence in, for example, in Akwa Ibom State. It is the governor of the state that will be held. You have violence in Kaduna. You have violence in River State caused by this policy. Who will be accountable? Is the governor, because they are the chief security officer of their own states. So when the pronouncement is made of the Supreme Court, of any court in that matter, it is not your duty to dispute it. First, you have to obey. That is why you have seen the court, High Court, sentencing EFCC chairman, issuing warrant to the IG, issuing warrant to high political office holders for disobeying court orders. And I bet you the Supreme Court might also invoke a similar punishment on the CBN governor, because if nothing is done to mitigate this position of the central bank governor, you might be setting a wrong precedent where a court will make a pronouncement and they will say when it happened in the Supreme Court issued a judgment against the central bank, they didn't obey and nothing happens. So what I think should have been done, the CBN ought not to be joined, because if CBN is joined in the matter, the court will lose its jurisdiction. Now I have told you clearly, when a matter between state and federal government is in dispute, the first port of call is Supreme Court for it to make its pronouncement on the dispute. But when you now join any other party, the court will now lose the right to hear it. And so why the CBN was not joined in this matter is because the state government feels that the policy of the federal government, because the CBN is the CBN is the agent of the federal government,
employee of the president.
That is the point. The CBN reports to the president, and the CBN is an employee of the president. And so whatever the CBN is doing, it takes orders from the president. And so if you have sued the CBN governor, assuming you have sued the CBN governor, and his employer is bent on enforcing the policy, your suit will make no meaning. So the best option is you sue the employer and then let the Supreme Court make pronouncement. If it were me going to court, I would have gone to High Court, like those four political parties did. Went to High Court and challenged CBN that the deadline shouldn't be extended. That was right, because they were political parties. Now when the governors challenge the federal government, they have to go to Supreme Court.
Yes.
For pronouncement. And when the court has made a pronouncement, whether it is in good faith or bad, it is left for all parties, all agencies, all arm of government to obey, so that you don't push the country into anarchy.
Okay, that said, as we're discussing this issue of insecurity, because of course I must reiterate at this juncture that what we're used to popularly as insecurity may not exactly be the insecurity in this case, because we're just 11 days before elections. Mm-hmm. Now, how can this policy, because of course tomorrow was supposed to be the case. I mean, the CBN could have been patient enough and allow for the case to have been heard. But the counterproductiveness of the CBN in this instance, do you see it in any way? It's a question I had asked before, and I'm bringing it back. Do you see it in any way causing insecurity of some sort, so much so that it may affect the elections?
Already, the CBN governor has taken the laws into his hands.
How?
By not obeying the court order. That is the first thing you must note. What he has done has already violated the law of the land.
In the first instance, just the Supreme Court have jurisdiction
it is not
over
for
the
him.
CBN.
It is not for him to disobey the court from outside the court. He should have filed his application or his motions before the court, challenging the court, the court like what the chief law officer has done. If the chief law officer had said clearly that the government of Nigeria will obey the court order, every other agencies of the federal government ought to accept the court judgment in good faith up until they appear before the court tomorrow. So what the TBN governor has done is taking the law into its hands. And my advice to the Supreme Court is to sentence him to imprisonment for contempt of court. Because if that is not done, he pushes Nigerians to a point where you can now say, okay, fine, what do? We go to self-help, which is not what we want, because we are heading towards elections. So he must be used as an example that no matter how high you are in the society, no man is above the law of the land. So what he has done today has breathed insecurity and can result to pushing Nigerians to go into self-help, which could be violence.
We need to be very clear on how this can lead to insecurity. We need to be very descriptive because, of course, it looks as though our conversation is a bit vague as to how this can lead to insecurity. Can you be more specific? Because, of course, in your beginning, you did talk about the fact that you spent 4 hours at the bank only to come out with just 2,000 Naira. That was what you said. And then you said you went to an ATM of a bank or same bank.
Same bank.
Same bank.
2,000.
And it dispensed old notes. In this description, how then can it lead to insecurity?
I just gave you a graphics picture. We took time.
Perhaps we need to be more graphic.
Yeah, we took time to analyze the feedback from the masses, how the masses is responding to the policy. And we also x-ray trending videos that has come out from bank customers, from Nigerians. And we have said that we saw people on video, captured on video, bank staffs scaling the fence for fear of their lives. We saw bank officials being waylaid. We saw people stripping naked in the banking hall. We saw people using, iron to fight in the banking hall. Before now, bank used to be a very sacred environment. That sacred has been desecrated. Today, people go to bank with their heart in their hand. Bankers, they operate with their heart in their hands. That is on its own insecurity. And that was why the chairman of INEC had to engage the CBN governor, sensing that the policy could hamper the success of the election. That on its own is insecurity. So when Nigerians are not given their resources, I'm not saying they should give me money from nowhere. My own money is in the bank. I cannot touch it. Even when I get it, I cannot use it because one man somewhere had declared the money invalid.
Yeah, but it's not one man in this case.
I'm coming because the central bank governor...
It's an institution.
No, the central bank governor...
It's an institution.
You see, the buck stopped at Mr. President's table. But where the president's spokesperson, who is the chief officer, has come up to say, we are going to obey this particular court order. It is not for the central bank governor to come out and say, we're not part of the suit. We won't obey it. That is why I'm saying that his actions can cause, he's already putting the life of bankers in Nigeria worldwide under very serious security risk. That's one. Two, I do not see Nigerians who are hungry, youth who are hungry, going out there to vote. I do not see it happening.
You don't suppose...
I'm just saying,
I do not see.
I do not see youth who are already angry, who are hungry, going out there to vote. So why are we bringing this, starvation policy? Because for me, it's to starve Nigerians to death. Who will be alive?
That may not be correct. That may not be correct.
But see, I told you here that there are people who live on medications, who believe that they need money to buy drugs. Do you know how many people
you can also do your transfers. You can also do your transfers.
How many banks do you have in the interlands? I told you that I send money to my aged mom in the village, and she on my support. But here I can't even have access to get this money to give to her. If I send the money through transfer to her, how would she be able to withdraw it in the interland? Here in the urban cities, I don't have banks to withdraw it. That is insecurity. So when we're linking it to how it will affect the forthcoming elections, it's very clear. Nigerians, the youth are already poisoned. That is why one of the candidates of the contesting for the presidency, I don't want to call him,
Ahmed
Tinubu, had over time
he had been saying it
to say that this policy is aimed against him, is targeted against his ambition, because he is the candidate of the party that is making the policy. Now, if Bola Ahmed Tinubu is saying that the policy is bad, who am I to say it's good? Though they have said he's saying so because he knows he has billions of naira in his house. That is secondary. The priority thing here is that I don't have billions in my house. The little ones I have put in the bank, let me have access to it. I'm not saying, okay, fine, you are saying that the bank should not pay more than 20,000. Let me even have that 20,000 naira. It's difficult. I told you I stayed in the bank for 4 hours and I could get only 2,000. And the same bank that is saying you will not be able to, they won't accept
the old note.
The old note. And they won't give me
you
the old note. Now I go back to the bank and say, take the old note. I got it from your ATM. How would they receive it? Wouldn't that cause crisis? If I insist to return the money back to the bank, wouldn't I cause violence in the bank? So how many youth would have that tolerance as I have and take the money and leave the banking hall? I mean, how many youth would do it? Let me give you another story. In one of the shops in Uyo, on Sunday, I went to see what happened in the bank. I got the report that they're not accepting the old currency. That was on a Sunday. Then I went to the shopping mall. I stood there and watched. A particular man came in. They told him clearly. They wrote it on their wall there. They're not accepting the old notes. Clearly on their wall, pasted it on the wall. The man came. You don't accept the old note, fine. The man had to go back to where he parked in the car park and got the new note and brought it and gave it to them and got what he wanted and needed a change. They now brought the old note for him.
Really?
The man almost destroyed things. He said he wants to break things in the shop. You can imagine the craziness. You don't accept the old note.
But you can give me the old note.
So this man, having parked his car far away in the car park, came in and was told that the old note is not legal tender in the shopping complex. He had to go back to where he parked his car and got the new note and came back. And upon paying for what he got in the shop, they now brought the old note as change to him. He almost destroyed it in the shop. People had to he said no, that he feel like destroying things. So that police will arrest him. Let him go and ask police to ask them why they are giving him the old note as change. Meanwhile,
they will not accept the same old note.
That's it. Now, how many persons will have the temperament that I had this morning, going to the bank to withdraw 2,000 from the counter, going to the same bank ATM and withdraw 5,000 old note? Then take this old note to the bank. Will they accept it from me? They will not. So
but they're giving the same old note.
How would they? That is the point. Now, if I insist that they must take back the old note from me, there will violence. That is insecurity. That is how the policy is going to hash and is incubating insecurity that will soon explode. So it's a time bomb waiting to explode. That's why I said that the CBN governor should not be an agent of crisis provocateur that is leading this country to where people will not catch in and destabilize the...
Yeah, but if we look at the policy, for all its intents and purposes, it's to a large extent, because you did talk about how, it's helping to address issues of inflation. You also talked about the Naira dollar rate now, which of course is credit to this particular policy. Can we not ignore, perhaps, the pangs we're feeling from this policy and look on the good side and just say, okay, fine, let's pay for some days. Perhaps after the elections, it might get better.
No, you see, if the lives of Nigerians were not at risk, if people were not taken to self-help, if people were not waylaying bank officials, if bank officers are not in danger per se, I will support the policy. If you have the policy, like you go to the bank, they say they are paying you 10,000 and you get it. For the past 1 week, I have not been able to get 5,000 for a particular bank, my bankers. And I keep on, every day I will call, says we don't have cash. Every day I will call, we don't have cash. That's it. For the past 1 week, Ike.
And I think it's been more than that. It's been more than that, going to about 3 weeks now.
So if the banks don't have the cash, then who then has it? Who then has the cash? So what are we driving at? You don't just kickstart cashless policy overnight. Like I have said, it takes time for this thing to mature, for this thing to be accepted. It's a fine policy. I told you, if you the whole of me that I told you that last time, I don't carry cash about. I have to do this because I wanted to explain practically for Nigerians to see how the policy is working. That's why I had to go to the bank to queue to get this cash. I don't believe in cash. But my mom, in this case, needs cash. And I have to get this cash to send to her. And
Now how are you going to even send the old notes in the first place?
I wouldn't even try that because putting that would be like sending her, counterfeit. Because the money won't be acceptable in the village. If here in the urban cities, the money is not being accepted, how then will I give it to her? So that is the point. And even at that, you are buying this currency. You are buying the currency from people who are holding it. Yesterday, I called a lady who has a POS operating center, and I told her I need the new currency. She said, how much? I said, I need 30,000. She said, you give me 5,000. So I'm going to buy 30,000.
So you part with
35,000.
35,000 to get 30.
30,000. Or I part with
25 and then leave
5,000 to get the new currency. So
and that will invariably mean that they themselves are also buying it.
That's the point. So I now, because of my investigation, I now ask why. They said they don't have it, they buy it, just like what you said. I gave a story of my wife queuing at a fuel station to buy fuel for several hours on a Sunday, and when they got to her turn, they said that the currency, the old note, is not acceptable. That's one.
And that was what she had.
And that's what she had. Two, and that they're not accepting the ATM cards and no transfer.
So it's either the new Naira note or nothing.
Note or nothing. Now she was stuck. I would spend more than 4 or 5 hours on the queue to get to her turn. She now called me and she was desperate in need of fuel. Now what happened? The fuel attendant now pointed to someone who is in that station, said, go to that POS machine, they have the new cash. So she now went there and bought the new cash.
She had to buy the new
cash,
Naira
note. You had to buy the fuel to fill her tank. How many Nigerians will have that patient? How many of us will have that patient or could pass through what she has passed through? That is where the insecurity is coming. So the policy of the central bank governor could have been better if not this hardship that are coming.
But let's look at it. 11 days before the elections, and one of the biggest complaints affecting elections over time has been voter inducement, vote buying and whatnot. Now, if the average Nigerian cannot have access, it shows you automatically that there's limited cash in circulation. So one of the aims and objective of this policy has been achieved. It will be difficult for politicians to buy votes. So we might just be on our way to having a credible elections.
You see, if the policy is all about elections, I think it's a wrong policy.
Why?
Because you don't make law targeting at individuals. You don't make law having people in your mind that these people are your targets. You don't make laws because of the political class. You have forgotten that the downtrodden, the market women, the teachers, the traders, the bankers are suffering. You are facing a particular class, the political class. They're not the only class of Nigerians that are using this currency that are making the policy to target. Now, what happened to the traders? What happened to the businessmen? What happened to those who are doing bricklaying? I gave you a story. I wanted to do a small menial job in my compound, and I called for a trip of sand. And the man who was coming to bring the trip of sand told me, you need to bring cash. And I need cash. It doesn't need transfer. And I had already called 3 persons who would have who would do the job. They came preparing to come and work, get money to go and feed their family. That morning, 3 of them came, waited. The tipper man who was to come with the sand asked me, "Sir, you have cash?" I said, "No." He said, "Then I can't bring sand because at the site we are getting the sand, he's paying cash." Now, that is one. I had to ask the 3 men who came hoping to work that day, who had told their
family,
wives,
I suppose,
their family, their children, "Let me go and work. When I'm done, paid, I will come back and take care of you." They had come with hopes of getting maybe little pay for that day, and from where they would have branched market to pick a few stuff and go home. Some of them, their kids could be sick. Their wife could be sick. They could even be sick themselves. But they needed to get that work done and get the money to buy drugs. But they came, their hope was dashed because I didn't have cash to buy the sand, and that stalled the job. That is how it happened. So from the site where you have the sand, to the man who is the tipper driver, to the workers in the site, all had, that job, that lost.
Yeah,
So
but our biggest hope is having a credible election. Good. Where voters will not be induced. Because if few money in circulation, what then would the politician use to buy vote?
You see, I risk saying that when the hunter has learned to shoot, when the bird has learned to fly without perching, the hunter has also learned to shoot without missing. Politicians are like wizards. They think ahead of every government policy. They think ahead of every obstacles you meet in their way. They are scientists, if you like. They may not be the ones thinking. They have think tanks who are planning for them. So if you are making this policy to stop them from using Naira, what about dollar?
Well, any form of any form of Naira, any form of legal tender, any exchange will absolutely be prohibited.
No, that is the point. The word is that every form of currency is prohibited at the polling unit. It's not because of the policy. Policy or no policy. Because on the day of election, at each polling unit in this country, you have a policeman armed, you have NDLEA, you have NLCDC, you have ESCC, sometimes you have military men at a polling unit. What would they be doing when Nigerians come to buy this vote? So you don't need a policy to say, let us not allow cash to circulate so that there will not be cash in their hands to buy vote. That shouldn't be the target, because you have the law enforcement officers in the polling unit already armed. But you still have them. Talk still go there, shoot, and carry ballot box and run away. You have in past elections, you still have it. Let's go back to the issue of election violence. It's what happened in Lagos when the Labour Party candidate, Peter Obi, was to go to Lagos to do his rally. So
some of his supporters were
attacked at Mainland Bridge and some areas. We were attacked. And the report came that they had some policemen there watching them being attacked. So what else are you saying could easily, mar the election, if not things like this? And you've not had the Lagos state government come out to condemn such incident in your own state. You are the governor of a state, you don't come out to condemn it. In Rivers State, the PDP candidates applied to use the
Abacha
Stadium for the rally. It was approved by the state government at the twin day of the, getting to the campaign. Was cancelled.
Well, according to the Rivers State governor, he said he lacked the capacity.
You see, if then the governor should simply resign. If a governor says he lacks the capacity to protect the life of Nigerians in his own state, he's taking security votes, then he's not as fit as being a governor. Because part of your job as a governor is to secure lives and property. So when you now say that you lack the capacity to protect the life
well, of Nigerians, cannot guarantee. We've been hearing of reports. We've been hearing of reports of pockets of violence leading to that.
In Rivers State, you see, I grew up in Rivers State, and I have always said it everywhere I go to, that the action of Governor Nyesom Wike is most likely going to cause violence in Rivers State. I say it because I know that the way he is oppressing the other voices, the way he is stifling opposition, will push them to revolting. Take, for instance, he goes to commission a project in a particular area where somebody, his opponent is there. He calls out his opponent. He's put the life of his opponent in danger. I have watched videos of opponents of his candidates being attacked. Senator Senator Abie Sekibo and the rest are under attack. Even
but he has said he's not aware. He doesn't know.
If a governor does not know what happened in his territory, he's not fit to be a governor. What then do you know? Before anything happened, he has intelligence. He has network everywhere. The governor who appoints his aide across the wards, all the wards. The governor who goes about, oppressing opposition, making policies that will stifle opposition, saying that for you to use the public facility, you must pay 5 million. Where do you have such kind of such practice in Nigeria? So when you do this, you are, and then, and it does broadcast and call names of people. I've never seen a governor use the taxpayers' money to do a state broadcast. I've been calling out people.
Okay, so because we don't have the luxury of time and taking into account what we're discussing, how can we conclude this conversation? What is the way forward? Because, of course, as we're discussing the insecurity in the 2023 polls, while we look at the causative factors, the most likely causative factors for insecurity, we should also, if possible, prefer possible solutions. What can be done, if you can give me that in 1 minute?
I think that first, the CBN governor should rethink his decision and apologize to Nigerians and apologize to the Supreme Court of Nigeria for disobeying lawful orders of the court in order to raise tension. Let me tell you that when the court made pronouncement, it gave Nigerians temporary relief that the policy has been relaxed by the Supreme Court. But when the CBN governor, came out to, resist, disobey the court order, it has created another, resilience and restiveness in the minds of Nigerians. So first off, the federal governor should apologize to Nigerians, apologize to the Supreme Court, and rethink his decision for not allowing the legal tender that the Supreme Court has made to be. That's one. Two, our political actors should not play demigods in their states. That you are a governor of a state does not make you to be the alter ego. You feel that you are alpha and omega. You call out the oppositions, you oppress them, deny them public facilities. When you do this, you push them to the wall.
And when they are attacked, insecurity.
Good, you are causing insecurity. And when they are attacked, you don't have the guts, you don't have the boldness to come out to condemn the attack, like in Lagos State. You don't even have a single poster in some states, a single poster of the oppositions. Why? I mean, this is democracy. You have freedom of choices to make as a voter. So I shouldn't just follow your own opinion because you are a government. That is wrong. So the government of states should open up. They should allow the oppositions to also, have the equal opportunity to exercise themselves, to campaign, to canvass for vote. That's one. Two, the utterances of these political candidates should be checked. Their spokespersons, thank God that DSS, drilled Femi Fadeka yesterday and released him. And we want to check the lives of Senator Dino Malaye and the rest should also be checked because their utterances are,
can stoke violence
and demeaning the other opponent, and you see them reacting, and before you know it, it will cause conflict. I was shocked when I heard that a Governor El-Rufai, saying that the candidate of a Labour Party was an actor acting movies. I mean, what on earth?
Okay.
Is El-Rufai contesting for the presidency? He's not.
Well, because of the luxury of time, I must say thank you again. Otuekon Franklin Isong, the State Director, Center for Human Rights and Accountability Network. Thank you again for coming. It was a pleasure having this conversation with you.
Thank you so much. My time is very short.
Thank you. Well, for you, the viewer, I'll leave you this. And of course, the CBN governor, and by extension, Mr. President. Mr. President, the primary purpose of government is to guarantee security and the welfare of its citizens. And if at this juncture, Nigerians are having to pay the ultimate price because of a policy termed good, though poorly implemented, I think there should be a need for us to go back and look at it. And Mr. CBN governor, sir, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, can you kindly respect the court order? And for you, the viewer, the electorate, 11 days to the elections. I don't know what your choice is, and I don't know who you're choosing. We can only hope and pray that you will not sit on the fence. So help us God that we will have a peaceful election, devoid of rancor, devoid of hatred, devoid of violence. Until such a time, God bless Nigeria. I am Ikechukwu Jue. It's bye for now.
Let's talk security, current affairs, governance, politics, your view, elections, rule of law, economic issues, foreign events on the Talk